Good evening. It's 6 o'clock on Wednesday, July 13th, 2016. Welcome and thank you for joining us tonight for the English edition of ORN News, where we bring you today's top stories translated into English every weeknight. The Democratic Party respected the 2 days' time they requested in order to review the hybrid proposal presented by the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State, Victoria Nuland. The Democrats do not agree with the International's role in the vetting process. According to the opposition's proposal, the International should have only a monitoring role and remove the decision-making right in the process of selecting members of that commission that will evaluate the judges and prosecutors. In the U.S. hybrid proposal, the Internationals would hold the right to compile and determine the candidates' list, so they had a decision-making role. While the DP's proposal says that the Ombudsman should compile the candidates' list and an ad hoc commission with 6 members, 3 from the opposition and 3 from the majority, to review the candidate's profile based on the documents they present. According to the DP proposal, the Internationals have the right to attend the review sessions and have full access to any of the documents the Commission has. After the candidates' review, the International Monitoring Operation has the right to submit a detailed report to Parliament with its evaluation for candidates. After reviewing the candidates, the list will be sent to a second ad hoc commission with 12 members, where the members can only vote once on the candidates. Later, the list of candidates will be sent to Parliament, where the MPs can accept or refuse the candidates' list with a qualified majority of 2/3. The Democrats clarify that their proposal is completely in accordance with Venice Recommendations' final opinion. The U.S. Ambassador Donald Liu expressed his disappointment in the Democratic Party's response. The U.S. representative to our country declared that the Democratic proposal is not in accordance with the final opinion of the Venice Commission. We are disappointed by Mr. Basha's response for the hybrid proposal for the judicial reform. We proposed a solution in good faith, half of the members from the government and half from the opposition. Mr. Basha proposed something that he has admitted to being in conflict of interest and not in accordance with paragraph 61 of the Venice Commission's final opinion, said Mr. Liu. However, Mr. Liu stresses that he will not stop his efforts to bring the parties to an agreement on the judicial reform. The U.S. Assistant Secretary of State, Victoria Nuland, spoke after the separate meeting she held with the opposition leader Basha and Prime Minister Rama, saying that the hybrid proposal for consensus aims to combine an appropriate level of international monitoring with the strong protection of Albanian sovereignty. The Democratic Party chairman informs the Democrat MPs today about the DP's response to the hybrid formula proposed by the USA and EU for the judicial reform. Mr. Basha asked the Prime Minister to leave alibis behind and be committed in negotiations, declaring that reaching an agreement is only a step away. Contrary to what the Prime Minister said, the Democratic Party not only has not refused the hybrid proposal, but we consider it to be a step away from reaching an agreement. The only thing to be done is to determine International Monitoring Commission's role in accordance with the Venice Commission. I want to confirm my and the DP's will to reach an agreement within a short period of time. Meanwhile, I have guided the DP experts to review the 7 emergency laws. We want the judicial reform to be adopted as soon as possible, said Basha. The DP chairman did not consider the recent U.S. proposal for the judicial reform to be a refusal of a solution. Basha expressed readiness to continue with the efforts for consensus, but emphasized that the DP does not accept the Internationals having a decision-making role in the vetting process. The DP chairman said that the DP proposal is in accordance with the Venice Commission. He also responded to the U.S. ambassador's reaction. The U.S. ambassador has given a tremendous contribution. We are in the conditions of a strategic alliance for which I have given and will continue to give my contribution, because I believe in a Euro-Atlantic Albania. Friends speak openly to each other even when they do not agree with each other. The Constitutional Court case is an issue that deserves to be debated. No one said that our proposal cannot be changed. We are open to listen to other opinions. Negotiations should continue, said the DP chairman. The DP's stance on the judicial reform and the recent proposal sparked debates in the meeting of the Democratic Parliamentary Group. Chairman Basha declared his position against decision-making abilities of the International Monitoring Operation. Basha's stance was supported by the former Prime Minister Sali Berisha, who it is learned has declared that the international should have the competencies Venice Commission has determined. Berisha said that the international should have a monitoring role, not a decision-making role. Meanwhile, MP Petozzi, Rulli, and Bregu were critical and asked the DP chairman to be clearer about the DP's stance to the judicial reform and to state where the Democratic Party is going with this stance. It is learned that MP Petozzi told the DP chairman that it was the opposition that asked the international's presence, but it seems like it has changed its opinion now. Also, MP Bregu emphasized that with this stance, the Democratic Party is not being against the Prime Minister, but against the international partners. Prime Minister Rama reacted today to the Democratic Party's rejection of the U.S. proposal for the judicial reform, declaring that he, in fact, expected this from the Democratic Party. The Prime Minister invited the Democratic Party chairman to meet again to reach compromise for the reform. The Prime Minister declared that the DP showed the people and our international parties that it does not want the reform, that it is afraid of justice and afraid of our partners' impartiality in revealing corrupt judges who are supported by the Democrats. According to the Prime Minister, telling the internationals to keep a distance is not acceptable. I am sorry to say that the Democratic Party's refusal is not unexpected. The proposal was made by Nuland and on behalf of the USA. Over the last year and a half, the Democratic Party has given signals it does not want the reform. It initially boycotted the process for a long time. It has entered and left the process, issuing claims to confuse the process. It has accused high-level experts whenever it could. It has constantly misused the Venice Commission's opinion. It has mocked the international partners, saying that their only concern is that I take control over the justice system, said the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister also based his regret in efforts of the majority and international partners to find an acceptable formula to adopt the reform, for which the Prime Minister said that the majority had accepted the DP's recent proposal to establish an ad hoc commission with 12 members to evaluate the judges. According to the Prime Minister, the refusal of the U.S. proposal shows the real reason the opposition does not support the judicial reform. The DP is not concerned about the reserved seats. The DP does not want our partners in the process. The DP is afraid of our partners' impartiality in the process, said Rama. But even though the Prime Minister began his speech saying he believed Nuland's formula is the last opportunity to reach compromise, the Prime Minister was not hopeless and addressed two invitations. There is still time, there are still opportunities. I publicly invite Basha not to be guided by his fear, but by the country's interests. I invite Basha to sit and talk like two Albanians who are heading two parties today, but who represent 4.4 million Albanians tomorrow. The citizens want and deserve a European Albania and the rule of law. I am calling all the Democrats to do something and not to allow the country's future to be derailed by the fear of justice, and not to allow Albania to be turned into a country where fear of the corrupt takes over, said the Prime Minister. The U.S. Ambassador Donald Blue continues his meetings in an effort to convince the Albanian politicians to vote for the judicial reform. He held a meeting with the former Prime Minister Sali Berisha, who left the Democratic Parliamentary Group meeting in order to meet with him, who was waiting for him at Berisha's office. They discussed the recent Democratic Party's proposal for the judicial reform. No details were given about the meeting, but after 40 minutes or so, the U.S. ambassador left Mr. Berisha's office and headed to the DP headquarters, where he met with the DP chairman, Luzum Basha. 7 days are left until July 21st plenary session, when the judicial reform is predicted to be voted on in Parliament. The U.S. ambassador is trying to convince the parties for a consensual draft. Assembly Speaker Ilir Meta is on an official visit to Montenegro, where he held meetings with top leaders of the country. During the meeting with the Montenegrin president, the two officials praised relations between the two countries and highlighted cooperation between the two parliaments, which according to them should be focused on the advancement of the Euro-Atlantic integration process and on supporting two governments to expand mutual economic and trade exchanges. Mr. Meta was received in a meeting held by Prime Minister Milo Djukanovic. In addition to the request for enhanced cooperation, the two officials praised the advancement of major projects and regional energy infrastructure, such as the Blue Corridor and the extension of the TAP pipeline through Montenegro. Meanwhile, during a ceremony organized in Podgorica, Assembly Speaker Ilir Meta gave the Prime Minister of Montenegro the National Flag Medal for his contribution to the establishing diplomatic relations and furthering cooperation between Albania and Montenegro, awarded by President Bujar Nishani with the proposal of Assembly Speaker. During the visit, Mr. Meta also held a meeting with a group of Albanian MPs in the Montenegrin parliament. They discussed the issues that affect the Albanian minority in Montenegro. The Assembly Speaker also discussed the Albanian minority issue with the Montenegrin Prime Minister, who offered his support in finding solutions to their problems. Meta emphasized the fact that all political factors should unite to serve more effectively to the common national interest. During the meeting with Albanian MPs, Mr. Meta was accompanied by the chairwoman of the Parliamentary Foreign Affairs Committee, Arta Dade, and Socialist MP Pauline Stirkai. That's all for our English edition this evening. Please join us again Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. for your local news in English. My name is Mari, and on behalf of Aura News, thank you and good night.